Most people have an image of Iran. Most people are wrong. Because the Iran that actually exists beyond the noise, beyond the assumptions, is one of the most layered, surprising, and flat-out stunning countries on the planet. And some of these facts, even lifelong Iranians will do a double take. Let's start with the most extreme thing first. The hottest land surface temperature ever recorded on Earth wasn't in the Sahara. It wasn't Death Valley, it was Iran. NASA satellites measured the ground in the Lut Desert at 159.3 degrees Fahrenheit. Set to centigrade Celsius. That's not air temperature. That's the surface of the Earth, hot enough to cook on. Hotter than anywhere else ever measured. And yet life exists here. Microbial organisms, clinging to salt and rock. Nomadic communities living along the ages. Wind carving the landscape into shapes that look less like Earth and more like something from a science fiction film. Now here's where it gets strange. While the south is a furnace, the north of the same country is a rainforest. The Hyrcanian forests along the Caspian Sea have existed for over 50 million years. They predate the Amazon. They once stretched across nearly the entire northern hemisphere. Today, they survive in a narrow band running through northern Iran, and UNESCO describes them as one of the last remaining ancient broadleaf forests on the planet. One country, two completely opposite worlds. And it goes further. Iran experiences all four seasons at the same time. In winter, you can ski on Mount Damavand, the tallest volcano in Asia, at 18,406 feet, while tourists a few hundred miles south are lying on beaches in the Persian Gulf. That's not exaggeration. That's just geography. Iran is the 17th largest country on Earth, bigger than France, Germany, and the United Kingdom combined. That's enough space for the world's largest enclosed body of water, the Caspian Sea, to sit entirely within its northern neighborhood. Enough room for the Zagros Mountains. Nearly 1,000 miles of ridges, hiding hundreds of forgotten valleys and tribal communities. And over 1,550 miles of coastline along the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, most of it wild, unvisited, and extraordinary. But the land is only part of it. Iran is one of the oldest living civilizations on Earth, with urban settlements stretching back over 7,000 years. At its peak, the Persian Empire was the largest empire in human history, reaching from the Balkans all the way to India. Its influence never disappeared. Persian fingerprints are still visible across Asia, in architecture, in language, in mathematics, in garden design. And here's something that rarely makes it into textbooks. Iran has more ancient underground aqueducts than any country on Earth, called qanats. These tunnels were carved by hand, some over 2,500 years ago, and they still deliver fresh water to remote communities today. No pumps, no machinery, just gravity, precision, and engineering that has outlasted every empire that came after it. Modern Iran, meanwhile, is a city of 13 million people and one of the most active metro systems in the Middle East. Tehran is where ancient bazaars sit across the street from glass skyscrapers, and where saffron rice is sold from carts outside high-end shopping centers. Iran has 27 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, more than Japan, more than Egypt, and almost nobody visits. Most people don't know Iran gave the world early algebra. That Persian carpets are still considered the finest hand-woven textiles on Earth. That ice cream almost certainly originated here. Made from snow stored in underground pits, flavored with rose water, over 2,000 years ago. And there is a village in Iran where families still live inside volcanic rock, not as a heritage attraction, as actual homes. We'll get there. But first let's move. Keshem Island, Iran's largest island, is not what you'd picture. No resort hotels, no beach clubs, just raw, open, bewildering landscape. Keshem sits in the Persian Gulf, just off Iran's southern coast, and it operates on its own logic entirely. The Valley of the Stars is a maze of sculpted sandstone eroded over thousands of years into formations so unusual that local legend credits a fallen star with cracking the earth open. Geologists have a more measured explanation. The result, either way, looks like nothing else. Nearby Sheku Canyon cuts through the rock in passageways so narrow a person has to turn sideways to pass through. When it rains, the natural basins fill with water and a quiet ecosystem appears. The Tehran mangrove forests grow directly from the sea. Saltwater roots, herons, at low tide. A world that appears and disappears with the water level. Keshem is one of Iran's only UNESCO epochs. It stretches over 80 miles. A short boat ride from Keshem delivers you somewhere that looks like it shouldn't be real. From above, Hormuz Island appears to have been painted. Red beaches, yellow ridges, hills running through orange, purple, and white, all of it, the product of volcanic minerals and centuries of geological activity. The red beach is the most striking. Iron oxide saturates the soil so completely that the sand runs crimson and the waves break the same color. It looks like another planet, it essentially is. The strangest thing here has nothing to do with geology. The red powder is edible. Locals call it sork and use it as a cooking spice. It shows up in traditional dishes across the island. The whole island is only 26 square miles, small enough to cross in a day, and almost entirely invisible on the global tourist map. DASHT Loot. This is where the numbers stop making sense. Loot holds the record for the highest land surface temperature ever recorded on Earth, 159.3 degrees Fahrenheit, measured by NASA from orbit, because getting close enough to take the reading in person carries its own serious risks. The Gundambarine Plateau is a wide, flat expanse of black basalt that absorbs and amplifies the heat like a sealed oven. To the east, the Kalaut's enormous, wind-carved ridges rise from the desert floor like the ruins of something ancient and enormous. Nothing lives here permanently. No shade, no water, no settlement. And yet researchers found life, microbial organisms, surviving conditions, previously considered impossible for any living thing. That discovery changed conversations about Mars. Because Loot and the Martian surface are strikingly, unsettlingly similar. Kerman, at the edge of all that emptiness, sits one of Iran's oldest cities. Kerman has been here for over 4,000 years. It was a staging post on the Silk Road, and its reputation for carpets and pistachios has held ever since. The Ganjali Khan complex at its center is a 17th century combination of mosque, bathhouse, and bazaar, built as a single, unified structure. The ceiling mosaics are intact. The sunken hammam is among the best preserved in the country. And 95 miles to the east, the Kalouts are waiting. From a city with 4,000 years of history, you can be standing on what looks like an alien landscape in under 2 hours. YZD, this city solved the heat problem long before modern engineering caught up. Yazd sits deep in Iran's interior, where the sun delivers over 300 days of direct heat per year. The answer the city developed is called a bajir, tall, chimney-like towers that catch even the faintest breeze and direct it down into underground rooms, cooling the air without a single moving part. It is one of the oldest passive cooling systems in the world, and it still works. Yazd is also home to one of the oldest surviving Zoroastrian communities on Earth. Their fire temple holds a flame that, according to tradition, has burned continuously for over 1,500 years. The old city is a network of mud brick alleys, hidden courtyards, and rooftop terraces, all in the same sand color as the desert that surrounds it. From above, it looks like the landscape decided to become a city. Below it, Qanats have been carrying water for 2,000 years. No electricity, no pumps, just tunnels, gravity, and time. SHIRAZ for centuries. Shiraz was the city that the rest of the Persian world looked to. Poetry, philosophy, gardens. The poets Hafiz and Sadi were born here, and their tombs are not museum pieces. They're living gathering places visited every evening by people who still recite the verses from memory and leave handwritten poems between the flowers. The Nasir ul Mulk Mosque is one of the most photographed buildings in Iran. Every morning, sunlight passes through its stained glass windows and spreads across the tiled floor in layered waves of color. It looks digitally altered. It's entirely real. Shashira is something different. The interior walls and ceilings are covered entirely in mirrored tiles, and the light inside fractures into thousands of directions at once. No photograph does it justice. It has to be experienced standing inside it. The gardens of Shiraz, full of roses and cypress trees, are the origin point of a design tradition that eventually shaped gardens across Mughal India and beyond. But the real weight of what Shiraz meant to the ancient world is a short drive away. Persepolis, this was not built to be a city. It was built to be a statement. Persepolis was a ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire constructed by Darius the Great over 2,500 years ago, at the height of a civilization that controlled nearly half the world's population. The Gate of All Nations still stands at the entrance. Massive stone bowls on either side, carved with the precision of people who expected this to last forever. The staircase reliefs are the most remarkable surviving record of the ancient world. Delegations from Ethiopia, Babylon, India, Greece, each carved in individual detail, each bringing tribute to the Persian king. It is a stone document of imperial reach. Alexander the Great burned it in 330 BC. The debate over whether it was deliberate or accidental has never been settled. What survived is still astonishing. Isfahan, they called it half the world. Nesfi Jahan, standing in Nakshi Jahan Square. That claim doesn't feel like an exaggeration. It is one of the largest public squares on Earth. And unlike most spaces of its scale, it doesn't feel empty. It feels deliberate. Every proportion thought through. Every angle considered. The Shah Mosque at one end is covered in 7-color tilework with a dome engineered so that a whisper spoken at its center carries across the entire space. The Sheikh Lotfola Mosque was built exclusively for royalty, and it shows. A single shaft of light moves slowly across the interior dome as the hours pass. The exterior tiles change from cream to gold to rose depending on where the sun is. Ali Kapu Palace contains a music room where the walls are carved into the shapes of vessels, not decorative, but acoustically functional. The Sio Sapal Bridge has 33 stone arches and becomes, after dark, a gathering point for music and conversation. Isfahan is not just a destination, it is a demonstration of what human cities can aspire to be. Kashon, an hour north, the scale becomes personal. Kashon is famous for its preserved merchant houses built around 200 years ago, by families who treated architecture as a form of intelligence. The Tabitabai house has multiple courtyards, each one engineered to manage light, air, and temperature differently. Stained glass, underground water channels, rooms connected by passages that aren't visible from outside. The Sultan Amir Ahmad bathhouse is tiled in turquoise and gold from floor to dome. Climb to the rooftop and the old city stretches out beneath you in terracotta and clay. Every spring, the nearby village of Kamsur fills with roses. The rose water distilled there has been made the same way, using the same methods, for centuries. Tehran, then there's the capital. Loud, sprawling, contradictory, alive. Over 13 million people. A mountain range as a backdrop, and a skyline that refuses to tell a single coherent story. The Golstan Palace is a Kajara complex of mirrored halls, throne rooms, and tiled courtyards that somehow made it through the entire 20th century intact. The National Jewelry Treasury holds one of the most valuable collections on Earth: royal crowns, ceremonial weaponry, and a globe constructed entirely from emeralds, rubies, and diamonds. Open only a few days a week. Guarded accordingly. Azadi Tower marks the western entrance to the city, a structure that manages to be both a Persian arch and a modernist monument at the same time. And on clear days, above the skyline to the north, a snow-covered volcano floats above the city. That's where we're going. Mount Damavand, 18,406 feet. The tallest volcano in Asia, the highest peak in the Middle East. Damavand doesn't sit near Tehran, it looms over it. Visible from 60 miles away on clear days, it anchors the northern skyline like something out of myth. Because in Persian myth, it is. The Shahnameh Iran's national epic names Damavand as the mountain where the tyrant Zahak was imprisoned in chains beneath the rock. The summit still breathes out faint steam. Dormant, not gone. Sulfur vents mark the upper slopes. In summer, the lower trails go green and wildflowers grow through cooled lava fields. Altitude sickness hits fast up here. The mountain has its own weather, its own rules. Alamat Castle, further into the Alborz range, in a valley that still feels sealed off from the wider world, something else waits. Alamat Castle was built to disappear into its surroundings, and for centuries, it did. This was the headquarters of the assassins. The Nizari Ismaili order that ran a network of mountain fortresses across the region from the 11th to the 13th century. Not an army, a system. Precision, secrecy, and strategic fear, deployed across a geography that no outside force could easily penetrate. The ruins are reachable by a steep hike, the Alamat Valley below with its deep canyons, almond trees. And morning fog still looks like a place that chose not to be found. The Caspian coast come down from the mountains heading north, and the landscape transforms completely. The trees close in, the air thickens, the light shifts to green. This doesn't look like Iran. Rice paddies stretch along the hillsides, villagers sit on stilts above floodplains, tea grows on the slopes above the sea. The Gilan and Mazandaran provinces occupy a strip between the Alborz Mountains and the Caspian Sea, subtropical, humid and entirely unlike anything to the south. The Caspian itself covers 143,000 square miles, the largest enclosed body of water on the planet. On the beaches of Ramsor and Bandar and Zar and Samar, it's all families and fishing boats. Turn inland, and it's forest, waterfall, and ancient silence. The Hyakanian forests, these are not just old forests. The Hyakanian forests have been here for over 50 million years. When the Ice Age arrived and stripped most of the northern hemisphere of its ancient tree cover, these forests survived, sheltered by the mountains on one side and the sea on the other. Oak beech, hornbeam, species found nowhere else on Earth. Persian leopards in the upper elevations. Migratory birds passing through. Fog sitting on the forest floor like something permanent. UNESCO added them to the World Heritage List in 2019. The rest of the world has barely noticed. Rudkane Castle inside these same forests. A fortress hides. Reaching Rudkane takes about an hour on foot uphill, through undergrowth, past streams and waterfalls. Then the walls come through the trees. Built in the Sassanid period and expanded in the 11th century, Rudkane runs across the hillside in nearly 5,000 feet of connected walls and 42 watchtowers. Moss covers the stone. Cloud covers the towers. It has the scale of a serious military fortification and the atmosphere of a ruin that the forest is slowly, quietly Kandovan now leave the forest and enter something harder to explain. Kandovan is a village built into volcanic rock, specifically into the hardened lava cones left behind by ancient eruptions from nearby Mount Sahand. People have lived here for around 700 years. They still do. Unlike Cappadocia and Turkey, where similar formations became heritage sites, Kandovan never became a museum. The families stayed. The homes are real, with multiple floors carved vertically into the rock, and in many cases, with electricity, running water, and internet access inside walls that are 7 centuries old. A natural spring in the village is said to have medicinal properties, particularly for kidney conditions. Locals drink from it. Visitors leave with bottles of it. Every angle of the place looks like set design. None of it is. Tabriz, not far away, sits a city that shaped the northwest of Iran for centuries. Tabriz was the capital of multiple dynasties, a major node on the Silk Road, and a crossroads where Turkic, Persian, and Armenian cultures met and merged. Its bazaar is one of the largest covered markets in the world, over 4 miles of interconnected corridors, vaulted brick ceilings, and centuries of uninterrupted commerce. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's still fully operational. The Blue Mosque, despite significant earthquake damage, retains enough of its original tilework to justify why it was once called the Turquoise of Islam. Beyond this city, the plateau stretches toward the final stop on this journey. Lake Urmia. It was once the largest saltwater lake in the Middle East. Lake Urmia covered over 2,000 square miles, a vast, shallow, mineral-rich body of water that supported flamingos, brine shrimp, and an entire regional ecosystem. Over recent decades, it has lost more than 80% of its volume. Dams, agricultural irrigation, climate change. What's left tells the story clearly. Old piers stand in the middle of cracked, dry earth. The shoreline is crusted white with salt. Where water does remain, it runs deep red, colored by salt-tolerant algae that thrive where almost nothing else can. Restoration projects are in progress. Whether they succeed is an open question. What's certain is that Urmia is unforgettable, not only for how it looks, but for what it says about how quickly something irreplaceable can disappear. Outro, and that's where the journey ends. Deserts that hold global temperature records. Forests that predate the Ice Age. Cities engineered to outwit the sun. Ruins that once administered half the world. Iran is not a simple place. It is not the image most people carry. It is not only ancient, and it is not only modern. It is not only desert, and it is not only one culture or one story. It is all of those things, layered on top of each other, often contradicting themselves, existing simultaneously. A country where 2,500-year-old water tunnels still run beneath cities with functioning metro systems, where cave homes have Wi-Fi, where the hottest place on Earth is a few hours' drive from a 50-million-year-old rainforest. You could spend years here, and still feel like you were only just beginning.